Hey, Wagwan, what y'all dealing with? So, I've been hearing people talk about the whole thing as far as if Kamala Harris is black, right? And there's been a lot of debate around that because there are some people who say she's not even black because of the way that she acts or the way that she carries herself. There are some people saying that she leans more towards her Indian American side and that the part of her that would be considered melanated or even somebody who has African origins is kind of overshadowed by the fact that she portrays herself as an Indian woman most of the time. She uses the part of her that is closer connected to black people whenever she wants to and whenever it's convenient. I don't think the issue for black people in America is the fact that she has a melanated parent or a parent that has African origins. I think the problem for us black people here in America is the fact that she is trying to act African American. She basically is trying to carry herself in the way that black people here in America act. And it becomes satire. Oh, I cook greens. As a matter of fact, I'll be washing my greens in the bathtub. Really? I mean, there were times that people washed their greens in the bathtub, but it was probably because they didn't have a functioning sink. I doubt that she lived in a place where they didn't have a sink, where she would be washing the greens in the bathtub. But I digress. That's for you to decide. What I wanted to talk about today is the whole concept of generational curses. I wanted to talk about where might a lot of these things be coming from. One thing we have to realize, if we're talking about black people, we are also talking about the biggest elephant in the room that cannot be talked over, which is slavery, which is the transatlantic slave trade. We cannot skip over that and say, well, that was a long time ago, because these things are the roots of the reason why we have so much pain in the first place. We talk about ancestors and we only talk about the fact that we are so proud to have them in our lineage. We're so proud to be descended from these people. But I think one thing that we have to also talk about, if we are to understand a lot of the things that's going on right now, is the things that happen to them and the things that have affected us all the way down the line inadvertently, because we have abandonment problems. We have things that might cause us to feel abandoned in our family lines, not just because of this phenomenon in the past, 100 years. Abandonment is something that could have gone back to that time as well. People who felt left behind, the ones who did run off to freedom, we're talking about the ones who didn't get to run to freedom. We're talking about people who were sold to other plantations, people who had to leave involuntarily. So with these things being the case, we have to go back in order to find the origins of this if we are going to find a way to get through it. I think about some of the things that we deal with in black families, and y'all can tell me if y'all relate to these as well. Having somebody in the family and being like, well, that's just the way that they are. They cause a lot of pain to people. They cause a lot of hurt to people. They say things that are nasty and mean, or they do things that are horrible to people. And they just keep getting away with it because people are like, that's just the way they are. We're family. We're going to wipe it away. The problem with this is that there never is any growth. There's never any change. Or if the person is just horrible and there's nothing that you can do, there's never any separation from them. With these things being the case, these harmful traits and behaviors are just being passed down like a pair of dirty drawers.
I threw it on the ground.
Until we're able to acknowledge the fact that we are allowing these things to pass down through just being accepting of them, then there will always be an acceptance of these behaviors that are coming from a place of hurt and pain and just continuing to be passed down. As it relates to black women, we have a lot of traits that we pass down inadvertently, whether it's a woman just being abused and allowing herself to just continue to be abused and not really having a way to get out of it. But what do you think she's showing her children as she's being abused and not getting out of these situation? Her boys can see that that's how you're supposed to treat women in a way that is abusive, and she's showing her girls this is what you should expect from a man, so that either they're going to continue to have abusive men and husbands and everything, or they're going to do the opposite thing and feel completely resentful towards men and feel like they don't ever want to be with the man because men are just dirty and trash and they do horrible things to women. This is the way that things are being passed down. If you have somebody that talks horrible to people, that's verbally abusive. A lot of mothers may feel helpless in their life, and so that what they do is they turn around and they exact that pain onto their children. They may feel like they're angry because something happened to them, somebody hurt them, or somebody is currently hurting them, and they turn around and they put that pain on their children. What it leads to is a generation of women who try their best to hurt people with words or to hurt people with what they're saying. It's something that is passed down through the generations. When we see a lot of the mothers and grandmothers saying terrible things to people, trying to hurt people's feelings with their words, or even just not being considerate of what they're saying and inadvertently hurting people with their words and saying, well, I don't care, I said what I said, that's what I wanted to say. And now you have generations of women who are trying to get back at the people who hurt them, using words on people who aren't the people who hurt them. And it's one of those things where it's like there is a lot of pain that's being passed down inadvertently. Until we stop letting this happen, all of this horrible stuff that's being handed down eventually stops. You have to be the one to say, the hand-me-down stop here. This I will no longer accept. I will no longer accept that you just have to go around relatives who are going to dog you out, and you just have to because, well, we're family. I'll no longer accept it. I'll no longer accept that, we have to have black men in the families who are sexually abusive to their daughters or to the girls in the family. The fact that we have high levels of people who say, I was raped by my uncle, I was raped by a family friend, I was raped by my grandfather, or whatever the case is. No longer, because if you know that we have these people in the family, don't come around. If nobody's willing to put them out and then nobody's willing to acknowledge it and everybody's just acting like it didn't happen, don't come around. Because at some point, there has to be somebody that's going to say, I am not going to accept this anymore. At some point. Otherwise, it's just going to continue getting passed down. We pass down high levels of dysfunction in relationships. When you think about it, the things that you're going to do in a relationship are going to be based on your upbringing of having seen a relationship or not, of having seen a healthy relationship or not, of having seen the things that you saw your mother do as a woman, and trying to understand how to carry yourself as a woman, or if you choose to be a wife. You get all of these traits from your parents. You get these understandings of things from your parents. What is it supposed to be? What is the model of it? But there has been dysfunction in this process. Now there are generations of people who come from parents who weren't together. There are generations of people who come from abusive and dysfunctional parents. With that being the case, I think that's one of the other things that get passed down, and it gets inflicted upon the relationship. Because if a woman does not understand how to be a wife and to be with her husband and how to treat her husband, these traits that she may have seen from her mother, she is going to take these traits also from what she's seen her father do. That's going to be her example of what it's supposed to look like to have a man, or what the men in her life, the standard that they're going to be held to. So with that being the case, these are the things that we have to look at as well. What example was set for us that we are now turning around and showing in our relationships and being parents and all other aspects of life? For a man, if he sees his mother being nasty and horrible, or he sees her also not speaking up or allowing herself to be abused, that's what he's going to think that a woman is supposed to do. He's going to let this be the standard for the woman that he's going to be with, or the woman that he's going to look for. In these past couple of generations, we're not taught how to be in relationships. As a matter of fact, a lot of people are just piecing together little slithers of advice and social media opinions to try to figure out what that's supposed to look like. And that turns into a disaster, boo.
No! God, please, no! No!
We have to look at the origins of that as well, because of the fact that I think there are toxic and negative traits in the generations before us that we have to look at how they were passed down. So that's why the women in this generation usually say, oh no, I don't want a relationship. As a matter of fact, I think it's better to be by myself.
Yeah. Cool where I'm at.
Because if you see that and you think that that's the standard for a relationship, is to just be together and not have any type of happiness, then that's what you're going to think that marriage is automatically, not knowing it's actually a toxic representation of being married. If you're a man and you see that, then you're going to hear all of the men before you say, well, no, I feel like lockdown.
Locked up, they won't let me out.
That shit feel like lockdown.
I get locked up, they won't let me out.
I felt like I had on straight up handcuffs. You don't want to do it. You do not want to do it.
The freedom ain't getting no closer.
Then of course you're going to think, shit, I don't need no handcuffs in my life. You're going to see it as that, and you're going to run far away from it.
Run.
Is the whole concept of the absent father. And I think that we have to look into this as far as why it's becoming the case at high numbers, because there are generations of fathers who, number one, we had absent fathers for generations, and we have to look back at the fact that fathers were taken away from their family. If we look during slavery time, that was something that was common for, people to be sold away from each other. And I think that it could be a result of that. Men are also not being taught how to be fathers and how to be husbands. And so what that looks like is that you go into the families, and even if you're there, you still don't know how to be a father. And you leave the children with traits. You leave children with pain. You leave children with feeling absent, or feeling hurt, or feeling like you did not give them what they needed. You have mothers who might be there physically, but they may be tapped out. They may also be verbally abusive and say things to the children that are hurtful, to where they grow up having low self-esteem, or they grow up feeling like they ain't nothing but bitches and hoes, or they grow up feeling like somebody was trying to constantly hurt them with words. We can act like a lot of these things are not happening, but you got to realize, when we have relationships between family, when we have issues with sisters and brothers, when we have issues with mothers and daughters and fathers and sons, we can't act like a lot of this stuff is not happening. As a matter of fact, a lot of the stuff has been buried for too long, and that's how it becomes a wound that is pulsing and bleeding, and that's how it becomes generational curses that never get fixed. And that's how we end up having a lot of problems in the family, that we look around and say, I don't know how it got there. Because nobody ever had the courage to step up and say, I'm stepping away from the dysfunction unless it gets healed. But I just wanted to talk about that today. What I'm going to do also is go ahead and put my social media on here, like I always do, so that y'all can get on here and connect with me on my social media. And so you can check out whenever I put up new posts and everything. Also, I'm going to put up my YouTube information right here. And I want you to go ahead and hit subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can see whenever I put up new videos as well. And show me some likes, show me some love. But in the meantime, in between time, peace.